this is the front desk.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Crackin' Backs podcast with your hosts, Dr. Terry Wyman and Dr. Spencer Barron. How you doing today, guys?
Really good.
I'm doing great.
All right, nice. And joining us today is Dr. Mike Miller, who served as team chiropractor for the New England Patriots football team for the past 38 years from 1982 to 2020. He was inducted into the Professional Football Chiropractor Society Hall of Fame in 2018, and is just, overall, a really great guy.
Yes, he
I
is.
hope so.
How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing
we
well,
all-
thank you.
We all think so. Hey, Mike, 38 years. That's longer than Spencer and I have been committed to anything. I mean, that's just amazing.
Never thought of it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's true. For both of us. What does this journey look like? I mean, you're in awe, and you're a true legend in the world of sports chiropractic, and we're so honored to have you here and for you to take the time for us. What is this journey? I know it's your 38 years. What's this journey look like?
It's been a great run for me. During the early times with the team, they went through some tough times, but you survive, you try to do the best you can. And my whole philosophy with the team was that I wanted them to understand the significance of chiropractic care for the athletes. So I think through the years, I've had 7 different head coaches. I've convinced all of them the importance of the adjustment and what it meant to the performance of the player and so forth. So even though every time a new regime came in, they try to obviously put their own people in there, they don't want the same regime there. I've managed to survive any cuts. So
Wow.
I went out on my own time in 2020 when I just felt when Tom had played his last game for us, it was time to say goodbye and, look for something else to do.
Wow.
That's
so
great.
You kind of went out with Tom.
I went out with Tom. He was the first one that, at the end of the game, he came over to me because he wanted to apologize for not being able to bring me a 7th Super Bowl ring.
Oh my
I said,
God.
Tom, you've given me 6 rings.
Oh,
You've given me the 6. I appreciate you. I love you. And I said, I want to let you know something, because when I came off the field today was the first time I felt that it was time for me to hang up my cleats. And I want to say goodbye to you for everything you've done for me. And he started to get a little teary-eyed and made me teary-eyed.
Oh, no.
But he never told me at the end that he was going to go to another team. I assumed he would retire after that time.
There's always that conversation of people wanting to know about, you and Tom Brady and chiropractic. But did you have other players in your history that really made an impression on you too?
There were a lot of players. I mean, obviously, my first quarterback in the industry was Steve Grogan. So he was one of the first that when they retired him at his party, came over to the group and he made an announcement that he had someone in the audience that he wanted to thank for allowing him to play 14 years with the team in the NFL. And if it weren't for this person, and my wife was sitting beside me and we were trying to joke. It's like, yeah, he's talking about me. She goes, it would be nice if he was, but he said, would Dr. Mike Miller please stand up?
Oh my God.
So
gosh.
I'll never
How
forget
great
that
is that?
because it was the first player that publicly acknowledged me in front of a group of probably about 1,000 people that were there for his retirement.
Outstanding.
And, there's certain players like Stanley Morgan, my first wide receiver, I'll never forget, because in those days, the guys, like Spencer, if they would get a touchdown, they want to give you something for helping them out in their careers. So he gave me his first touchdown ball.
Oh.
And Willie McGinnis was probably the most memorable for me because we had a good relationship on and off the field. And he started a little mantra there when I would come into the locker room all the time. So it was always, it's Miller time. So everyone would start cheering, and and he would hop on the table before any other player would get there. Even if he was like 10th in line, he would just push himself on the table, lie down, and he goes, "Who's after me?"
Yeah.
And Bill Belichick would see that sometimes, so he'd get a kick out of it. So when Willie was out of the picture and retired, he'd come into the room, and if there'd be 4 or 5 players waiting to be seen, he'd say, "Who's after me?" I said, "Bill, you're not saying it with conviction in your voice.
Yeah.
You got to talk like Willie talked if people are going to move out of the way."
Oh, great.
But, players like that you never forget. And Tom Brady was a one of a kind as well.
That's great.
But, there was a player who passed recently, David Patton. He passed away. He had a motorcycle accident recently. And he was one of the first players that his first year with the team gave me his first touchdown ball. And I wanted to give it back to him. And he says, "No, Doc, this is for you, man." And the touchdown ball that he had when he jumped like 6 feet up in the air to pull it in one of the Super Bowls came to me as well.
Oh my God.
Man. That's
so
great.
you collected things over the years. In the recent last 5 years or so, the players aren't as generous, I'd say, where they it's a different breed where they're more self-centered. So I never asked for anything. So my collection started to go down after in the latter years.
Had to go.
Right.
Had to move on.
Then you had to go.
Yeah.
How'd you, with the regimes of the coaches changes, was it the players that kept you on to convince them to keep you on if they wanted their own people, or did you have
I think it was the players more than anything else. But, it was like at one point when Bill Belichick came aboard, I had treated Bill when he was with Bill Parcells as the defensive coordinator. But when he came on, within a week of him being there, the head trainer called me and he said, "I just want to give you a heads up, Doc. All of our guys have just been let go. And Bill called me personally to tell me I'm gone. So I'm letting you know you're probably next in line." It's like, well, if that's the case, then that's the case. I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And that day, we got a call in the office and they said, "Bill Belichick is coming in. He'd like to see me that day." And usually I see him at the stadium. So it's like, this is unusual that he would call to come into the office. I said, I know the way he does things. Maybe he wants to fire me right in my own office.
Oh my God.
So he came in, he got treated. And after the treatment, I said, "Do you have something to say to me?" He says, "About what?" I said, "Oh, I just got a call from Ron. And he was telling me that everyone was let go in the team." And he said something I would never forget. He said, "You know something, Doc? The chance of you being let go is less than me being let go."
Oh my God.
He said, "So you don't have to worry about it. You're here." So that night I had about a half a dozen calls from the medical director, other people like, "Are you on? Or what happened? You get fired?" It's like, "No, I'm still here. Believe it or not, I survived. I'm a survivor."
Wow.
So
why do you think that is, Mike?
I tell you why it is, because the team never heard me say the word no.
Wow.
So,
right there.
When they would ask, "Can someone come to the office? Can you come over here on your Wednesday afternoon? Can you come here? Can you meet this player at the locker room?" I always said yes.
Oh,
and I had been at I know Spencer had an easy job because he never had to go on the road trips. Either that or he was smarter than I was.
No, he had an easier job.
Yeah.
Look at his tan. You know,
I know, right? I see he's always working on his muscles and his tan.
Yeah. See, we always say yes, and he's always like, "Well, no, I got to work on my tan."
Yeah. Exactly. Wait a minute.
We get to go in the sun 1 week a year.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in the winter time.
Right, exactly.
Oh man, in my defense, I got to tell you, Stacy Conrad, who was with the Indianapolis Colts, he traveled for years, and then he finally retired and gave it up to Marcus, and he would badger me all the time. Why are you traveling with the team? And I go, well, it's really great how I have it right now. I go in, I get out, I'm done for the day, spend time with the kids, all that. And finally, when he left, I heard him say, wow, now I finally got my weekends back. And I go, whoa, wait a minute. You just told me. And then I started traveling, and I realized what the role reversal was. And he goes, yeah,
nice. I do not, yes.
Misery enjoys company, he said. Yeah. Right.
I don't miss coming home at 3 and 4 in the morning. That part I don't miss.
Right.
Yeah.
That is tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But ahead,
who
Terry, you were going to say something?
Do you miss do you miss it? I mean, even though it's only a year, when you watch them play, do you kind of miss being out there?
I miss the camaraderie. I think I would have had more of a morning period if last year in our stadium they never allowed anyone into the stadium all season, so there were no fans allowed all year.
Yeah.
So I never got a chance to go back to my original seat to sit there in the stadium.
Right.
This year, for the first time, when I went with my wife, she used to go with a friend of mine, and he would take my place. So they have a camaraderie of about 25 people in their section where they are. When I came to the first game this year, at halftime, my wife looked at me and she said, "You're not really too fun with these guys. You're not interacting." I said, "First of all, I don't know the guys around me. I'm here to watch the game," because my vision was always like a laser vision to the field to watch what was happening. Yeah. So I'm trying to concentrate, and I'm being tapped on the back constantly. Like, "Were you here when Grogan was here? You work with Bill Parcells too?" So I'm turning and answering him, and I'm missing every play. So at halftime, she said, "My friend was much more engaging with the group than I was." So I said, "Well, all I can tell you is maybe I'll sit home from now on, and you can take John to the games." But
did you treat Parcells by any chance?
Yes, yeah. Every head coach was treated. So one thing we did convince them is that they needed it as well as the players did. So there wasn't one coach that I never treated it. Right. Every one of them had been an active participant. Yeah.
Because when Bill came over to Miami Dolphins, he asked me to adjust him. And I'll tell you, the first time I met the guy, his crystal blue eyes, they looked into your soul. I mean, he was leadership quality.
Exactly.
So I adjusted his hips, and it was such a movement. And he was playing golf that day. He came back the next day. He goes, "Every coach needs to get adjusted who plays golf." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Man, I had a spectacular game, and I want you to adjust my hips every time." And I go, "You really?" It's one of those things. Yeah.
And see, a lot of people saw the arrogance in Bill Parcells.
Right.
But through his wife and other people that had been in that were close to him, she had told me that he also played classical piano when he got home. So I said, I can't picture your husband behind a piano. She goes, "Well, you'd have to come to my house to hear him play."
Oh my!
So little things that you find out about people, but he didn't fit that picture of someone who would be, sitting home playing show tunes.
No,
that's cool though.
Yeah, but some of his former players would break through a brick wall for the guy. He knew how to get in and to motivate and inspire you like no other coach. He was amazing, or maybe like Belichick.
Everyone to me is more intimidated by Belichick because the players were fearful of him. They would never be late 1 second for a meeting. They jump off the table if they know, I got 2 minutes, I got to get to the meeting. But, he wasn't as abrasive to the player as Bill was. If someone was injured and they were on a stationary bicycle, he'd go over to him and he'd say, hey, buddy, what's the story? When are you going to be playing for us here? "Oh, pretty soon, coach." He goes, "Pretty soon? I healed faster from open heart surgery than you have with your hamstring fall." So he'd make him feel a little bit bad about it. But Bill is the type, though, that once he has favorites that were players, whether they were from the past or present, he would always give them special privileges.
Yeah.
But anyone else, beware.
Yeah. Jimmy Johnson was like that. Jimmy Johnson.
I heard he was like that too.
He inspired guys. But he played favorites, and he was very clear about it. He goes, "You play good, you're my favorite. That's it." So instead of being condemned for it, he really stood up to it. That was
Well,
great.
Belichick was, out of all the coaches, the biggest proponent for chiropractic. He actually
Really?
enforced it and said, he would tell them in meetings, Doc Miller is here. He's going to be here at these hours. I want everyone who's injured or anyone who isn't to be seeing him today. If you don't and something happens, you'll deal with me.
Oh, wow.
So,
Gosh,
like some guys I would
fantastic.
talk to on the road, it's like, boy, these guys have it easy. They might see a half a dozen guys before the game. They were calling me a half hour into the time we'd arrive and say, when are you coming out in the field? I said, I can't come out in the field until maybe 20 minutes before, when, we were seeing like 35 players before each game.
Oh, my gosh.
And they're seeing 6 and say, where are you, Doc? We're all waiting out here for you. It's like, yeah. When I'm sweated up and I change, I'll be down there, right?
Yeah.
So he made it harder for me because everyone wanted it, whether they were an equipment manager, whether they were on the
Wow.
training staff, they all got adjusted, even the medical staff. So I found that interesting too.
That's such a good testimonial for the profession. Yeah. Yeah, right. Wow. I will say that the second coldest I've ever been in my entire life is in Gillette Stadium. I thought my guts were going to spill over from frostbite. I mean, I've never been. How did you deal with that all the time?
What was it, like 60 degrees?
You have to harden yourself to it. Yeah. I mean, it was so bad at times that, the worst game I ever played, we were in Buffalo, and it was like 18 degrees and as windy as could be. And the actual uprights were swaying during the game, so they had to tie ropes to them to hold them down. If you try to kick the football, it would like just stay in the air and just boop, come right down. But the wind was like biting at you. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. That's when you start wondering, are the guys going to miss me if I go into the locker room and warm up for a second? Because the Patriots wouldn't, their whole thing is around the players. They put them on a pedestal. So if you're a doctor, hey, you're expendable. So they have heaters on the sideline.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to go near the heaters at any time. Even if the players left the bench and they were to go on the field, it's like if you wanted to put your hands and warm up, that's like, nope, they're just for the players. And you'd get a letter from the management if you did stand in front of the heater.
No.
Wow.
So because I was the eldest one there, they would say, if some of the new guys were there, they'd say, hey, Doc, you got to tell them they can't stand there. So I'd say, they go, you're kidding me. It's like, no, they're watching from above. So you're going to get a letter in the mail or you're going to get an email, something. But that's how it was there. But our rules were like no other rules from any other team.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to take pictures on the sideline before the game. If we wanted to take our group picture, we'd have to go to the other side. They didn't want anything filmed near our sideline, like they were going to get some secret information from there or something.
Yeah. Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, you always said that it was very strict out there.
Very strict.
Yeah.
But the cold games, I mean, sometimes I'd had 5 layers of clothing on. And if someone like you were coming, I'd say, hey, you better make sure you got your thermal underwear on and a couple of different, layers because it gets cold there.
It didn't help. I actually was told that careful about those heaters. Our head athletic trainer at the time, and I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because you'll want to stay there the whole game." And I actually got close to the heater and I put my hands up, and I was watching the game and I felt something weird, and I realized that this special Nike glove that they issued to all of us. Yes, yeah. It melted right in my hand.
We used to have players that were rookies. They would stand with their backs to it, and the next thing we would smell is smoke, something burning. It's like, guys, you got to get away from there. You're catching on fire here. You have to get a fire extinguisher soon.
Oh, I was in shock.
That's crazy.
It is cold.
Yeah.
Mike, how did you... go ahead,
No,
Terry.
go ahead.
I was just...
We're so excited. Hey, with all your time in the locker room, what's some of the funniest stories that you have? I mean, you've got to have 38 years of locker room stories, but you got a couple of them have to stand out.
There's a lot of in the beginning of my career, you would get people, if you lost the game, they would be carrying on in the locker room. There'd be fights. They'd throw barrels over. They'd kick walls. They put holes in the wall. But all that stopped in more recent years. But one of the funniest stories that happened to me once, we went on the road and I think we were in Carolina. And we got there, and my table, the trainers would set it up for me. So they put it in a room. They'd say, Doc, you're all set. Paper towels in there, sanitizer, you're ready to go. I get in there, and the head trainer comes over to me, and he says, Doc, can I talk to you for a second? I said, yeah, everything all right? He goes, well, it depends how you look at things. I said, why? What's going on, Jim? Apparently, your adjusting table didn't make the trip.
Oh
no.
Is there any way you can adjust the guys on the training tables? And you know how high they are. It's like, and they're flimsy. When you get someone like Wilfork, who's 380 pounds, you're not putting him on that table without it collapsing. So I said, no, I need the height to be around my knees in order to get leverage to move him. So I said, you don't have anything lower? He goes, no, we don't. He says, but I can bring over one of these Gatorade. The big trunks, the Gatorade thing, the coolers.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He says, you can stand on that and try it. It's like, Jim, I'm not standing on the Gatorade cooler and trying to move people there. This is the NFL here. This isn't a high school football team. So he says, well, you got to do that because everyone's waiting for it. You got to make the best of it, buddy. So I try to stand on it, and I was like surfing on it, going back and forth. It's like, this isn't going to work. Either I'm going over or the player's going over on that table. So they wound up putting weights from the weight room they had there, and they filled it up on the bottom so it didn't move. And I went through the entire roster with that thing until Wilfork got there, and then he said,
no.
Am I going to be able to lay on this? It's like, I don't think so, because if you start rolling, we're both going over, buddy. So we finally had him. He says, can you adjust me on the floor? I said, I don't think so, but let's see what we can do. And the guys were like grabbing his legs and trying to pull him to give me leverage. It's like, this is ridiculous. If this ever happens again, I'm not working. That was it.
Yeah.
But
wow.
It turned out to be humorous at the end. We could laugh about it, but when it happened, I was really ticked off. But it never, after that, it never happened. They had a board that had all the things that they had to bring every week, and that was always listed as number one. But, little things like that happen. You just don't think of it.
But I do believe that sports chiropractors have to come up with sometimes some, off the wall stuff to treat on the field or on the sidelines or, at the end of a 5K race or something, table breaks, and you got to come up with some creative.
We had one Super Bowl that we brought the table, and that was before I got the Lifetimer table that was more steel, and they had the wooden legs. So we had, one of the guys was lying on the table, and Joe Andruzzi, I don't know if you remember him from Patriots, but he was a big guy. He decided to lie on top of the guy. And the minute he got on top of him, we heard a crunch, the beautiful sound of wood crunching, and the legs buckled.
No.
And that was the end of the table. So Bill came in and he said, what's going on here? I said, well, right now we have no table. What happened? And I told him the story. He goes, God damn. Are you kidding me? It's like, it wasn't me who broke it. He says, what do we do? So they had to call the chiropractor from the city we were in and see if he could get a table to us. So the guy says, I'll get a table under one circumstance. I get a ticket to the Super Bowl. And the Patriots, the way they run business, it's like nobody's getting a ticket unless they pay for it. It's like, well, we got an issue here. It's either that or we have no table now. So he wound up bringing the table down. They set it up, and they did give him the ticket.
Wow.
So so he got to go to the game. But it was just a weird thing that in the midst of everything, just before I'm ready to stop, boom, everything's in two pieces. So, but they don't think of bringing an extra or something in case something like that happens.
Oh my gosh.
So,
those are good warnings for other listeners. That's so funny. Well, let's go back in time. Yeah, let's go back in time and find out how you got started in chiropractic. That's something I've never asked you before.
I was actually doing research at Boston University Medical Center. So my original plan was to go into neurosurgery.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
friends of mine that were research scientists there that I was working with said to me one day, they said, yeah, this is really a depressing field here, because the minute the skull is removed and the brain is exposed, damage occurs. And a lot of the tumors they were dealing with, they said, most of them were malignancies, most of them were fatal. And even if you removed them, they reoccurred in time. So he said, it's a really miserable profession. You should go into something more natural. Why don't you go into sports medicine? I said, well, I don't know. This is the research I'm doing now. So they said, if it were me, I'd go into chiropractic because it's more a natural approach.
No.
So
Really?
from that point, as a deer, I went to Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport. And I went there one weekend, and all I wanted to do was talk to people in the clinic to see why they chose that alternative. Did they see medical doctors first, or was this just something that they, in that area, decided those were going to be their primary care physicians? So I got into the clinic and I talked to about a half a dozen people before they tried to kick me out. Then the director had come in and said, excuse me, can I ask you what you're doing here? I said, yeah, I'm a student at BU Medical Center, and I came here because I'm interested in chiropractic. I just want to see and get a feel for why people chose chiropractic over, regular medicine. And he said, well, we really can't have you talk to people here. It's, at that point, they weren't thinking about HIPAA violations, but they were nervous that someone was questioning people there. Mm-hmm. So I said, I am doing nothing to expose chiropractic in a negative light. We're just trying to talk to people. Then he let me stay. And everyone had the same story to me. They had always tried the medical approach first. It didn't work successfully. They saw a chiropractor, and before you knew it, they were back on their feet and 100%. So I said, there's got to be something to it. Everyone can't be brainwashed. Right. So at that point, I went back to Boston. I said, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to somehow see what it's like. I'm going to enroll there, and I want to see if they're going to brainwash me the whole time, or if it's something that I'm actually going to learn that's something that's hands-on, that I can figure out what's actually going on here. And in Palmer, when you first go there, when they teach palpation skills, the first thing they want to do to first-year students is they want to say, here's a book, like a yellow page book, the real thick ones. And they pull out a strand of hair and they put it in the middle somewhere, and they go, put your hand over the top and see if you can feel it. And you don't feel a damn thing. It's like, no, I don't feel it. It's like, you don't feel that ridge? It's like, no. It's like, well, then maybe this isn't for you, buddy, because you should be able to feel that. So until you actually one day get to feel that, then you realize maybe you have a little sensitivity and palpation skills there. But it was very nerve-wracking in the beginning when you first get there and people are telling, oh, you should be able to feel this. You don't feel this? You can't feel it. It's like, no, I don't feel a thing. I'm wondering what this is all about here.
We had the same thing in Cleveland. We had my first day. I had to feel a hair in the book. I'm like, I don't feel a damn thing. Oh, it's right here. Where? There's no way in hell you feel that.
Right. Yeah. And then they'd have that board, that spring-loaded board that they teach you how to, thrust into. You have to cause the little hinge to close and make it by hand. And you keep hitting it. It's like, wow, this isn't really closing like it should right away.
Yeah.
So you start to have doubts about yourself, but it was a different experience in the beginning. I'm glad I went that route though.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great. Well, obviously you're so proud of the profession that your son is now a chiropractor.
Yeah,
yes.
I saw that.
I was very happy when he went into that. He went from wanting to study law to wanting to be an architect. Then he wanted to be a neurosurgeon at one point. So at one point he came up to me and he was mad at me. What? He says, so I'm a little disappointed in you. It's like, you're disappointed in me for what? He says, well, you never forced this on me to even tell me to become a chiropractor if you thought it was such a good profession. It's like, well, I love the profession, but you have to have a passion for it. If you don't have a passion for it, I'm not going to tell you to do something, and it's not something you want in life. Yeah. But, I'm very proud of him. He's been with me now for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
He became the chiropractor to the New England Revolution soccer team.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So in the 3 years he's been with them, he's brought them to the playoffs every year. They hadn't been there for over 20 years. And the injury rate is almost non-existent. And right now, as of a few weeks ago, with 5 or 6 more games left in the season, they secured the first, playoff position. They secured home field advantage. So I think all 3 games could be in Foxborough. And if they do, they go to the Cup. And last year was the first time they got to the final game. They were in Columbus, Ohio. And they took him to the away games. And in MLS soccer, none of the doctors, even the medical staff, no one's brought to the away games. The visiting team is seen by the home team's physicians.
Yeah.
But the players pushed it enough so that they brought him. The medical director called me and said, "How'd your son get on the flight? I'd like to be there myself." And I'm the medical director and I'm sitting home. It's like, I have no idea. I didn't want to, stir up a hornet's nest there, but he did go and they lost 1-0. So, he was good about it. I was worse off than he was because I wanted him to see what it's like. But the fact that he could fly with the team and he, went into the hotels with them, it gave him some excitement level that, I wanted him to experience. And the coach of the Revolution, even though we wanted to try to see if we could move him into the Patriots, didn't want him to leave. They said the players, coaches, they all love him. So we want him here right now. So we'll see what happens in the future. But I told the owner when I was leaving the team, I said, "You're going to have to hire 2 doctors to take my place here. Unless they have a photographic memory and they know everyone's idiosyncrasies, they're going to have a difficult time." He goes, "Oh, well, whatever it is, it's next man up philosophy on that team." So when they did replace me, they brought some guys in. They brought 1 person in, and then they had to hire a second one. Oh. So they couldn't get through the roster. It's like, what's the problem? So last year, they had a lot of injuries during the season. Oh. And I got a call probably after the 8th or 9th game of the season. It was like, Bill says, "Can you do me a personal favor? We've got 17 guys on the injury report. And I know you're retired, but if I can't win against the Jets Monday night, my season's over because it's a divisional game." Oh. So I'm not going to say no to him. Right. I said, "You know what? I'll be more than happy to do it." But I had to go 3 mornings at 6 in the morning to be COVID tested in a trailer they have there. Yeah. So I'd have to go there. After the 3 negatives, you could then go back into the stadium, which I hadn't been in all year. Yeah. And I told them I'll be there at 5:30 in the morning. I had the test. At 6, I was in the stadium. Instead of 17 guys waiting for me, there were 22 players waiting for me. Oh, plus Bill and his 2 sons. So there was like 25 in total. I said, I've got my office going from 9 to 7 today. Oh. But, that's like, we'll see who you can get through, whatever you can get through. But I managed to do it. And I went, after I left there, I go back to my office for another 10 days, 10 hours rather. And I'm in the office killing myself saying, "I'll never do this again. It's not worth it to me," how tired I was at the end of the day. Right. But the good thing is 14 of the 17 guys played that Monday night and they won the game. So at that point, I said, great. I'm vindicated now. Yeah. So
that's great,
awesome.
Man.
I miss the camaraderie of the players and the coaches. I don't miss the work that was involved.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I mean, I don't know about you, whether you miss not being there. I know you were on the sideline taking pictures, so it was a different venue to be doing it that way.
I do miss it.
I still don't think he's a chiropractor. I think he's a photographer.
He does take great pictures, though. I got to tell you, they're amazing.
Thanks, Mike.
I was thinking that's my way back into the team now. I'd be one of the reporters now interviewing the guys at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Hey, you talk about a lot of the joys. What about some of the stressful moments that a lot of these new chiropractors come out and they don't realize that you have to work under pressure? What's some of the moments that you just went, "Oh no," and then but you still got through?
A lot of times you get some pressure situations when you have a player and they bring them over to you, And the worst of times is before a Super Bowl game. So if they have 2 or 3 people that are questionable, especially with Bill, he'd say, I need these guys in Sunday's game. I can't, I need these defensive players. They got to play. It's like, well, I'm going to do whatever I can in my power. But when I got there, we get there usually on a Super Bowl week. We would get there, the medical staff, usually on Wednesday night. So it'd give you a few nights. But, one of the players they brought over to me once was so antalgic. He was shooting pains in his leg, passing out from the pain. They had him on all these different painkillers. It's like, I don't know. And the medical staff looked at me and they said, we have him out for Sunday. I don't know what you're going to tell Bill, but you can't activate him and then take him away once he's activated. I said, well, let me see how he is by Saturday. But I saw him, every day. It's like, can you see him twice a day? It's like, I can look at him twice. He may not need to be manipulated, but he had a sacral misalignment and he was a big guy, like, over 300 pounds. I said, great. But afterwards, he was able to stand upright. The antalgia was gone. His leg pain disappeared and he played. But those are the stressful times where it's like, you're being judged with every player you see. Because I always told my son in the beginning, the first Patriot he saw in my office, I was away for the weekend and I didn't think the player would come in because I was out, but he came in anyways. I said, you're going to have to treat him. And it's a make or break situation for you, because if he likes you and you make him feel better, you're his hero. If you don't and he doesn't get better, guess what? You're the GOAT now. So you don't want to be the bad GOAT. So he says, oh, that's nice. Nice, like putting all that pressure on me. It's like, well, I'm being honest with you. So it's either you're going to succeed or you suffer the consequences. Right. But he was lucky. The guy, he adjusted his knee. He's very good with extremities. And the player said he felt great, went back to play. So it was a positive for him. Yeah. But you have those situations all the time and you're being judged, because even the medical staff, they would watch me while I adjusted the players and they'd see them coming in. It's like, oh, I just had I thought I was going to have to give him a Toradol injection because his back was in spasm. What did you do to stop that? Yeah. But, when they see the results, they start to see there's some pattern to it, that you can do things that maybe they can't do. And I respect what they can do for the team. But it's always, every game was stress in the fact that when you're on the sideline and you're losing and whatever, you're thinking, is there something more I could have done so that the player interacted better on the field, was faster responding to different things. But I would always tell the players one thing. I'd say to them, if you're in pain, it's a distractor to you. So if you don't get treated and you're out there and you're feeling your hip and you're shifting and saying something isn't right, it's going to slow you down. And even a fraction of a second that your attention isn't on the field and a ball comes your way, it's the difference of picking up, a pick, interception. You're going to miss those if you're thinking about something else. So when I adjust them, I would tell them, we're taking away the distraction, which is the pain.
That's great. And I think every listener should be excited about hearing this kind of, background in your experience at that pro level, because when some of these new kids, they try to get in with the athletic trainers to a high school or a college or anything, and they go, no. They don't realize that we're so well integrated at that professional level. So, so what are you complete? Are you retired from practice or no?
No. I told people I'm semi-retired. I only work 6 days a week now. I got my seventh day of rest, one way or the other. Yeah. But I'll tell you, going to the games this year is frustrating because we're 0-4 in the home games.
Yeah.
So it's tough to watch that. It's very tough to watch that. And the fans in Boston, you could be loyal your entire time as, a Patriot fan, but you see 4 losses, the guys are already getting booed off the field because they're not used to seeing people lose at home here.
I'm used to seeing that. Well, Mike, we went 1-16, and
I know.
we had like 3 psychologists.
That bad.
Hey, Mike, do you see that your success? You credit the success of your team to the chiropractor, yourself. What did we say about Spencer's team and the success, the not success, and the chiropractor? You know?
That was poor coaching. Poor coaching decision.
Thanks, Mike. Mike, earlier you said that you went through 7 coaches. Since the Shula era, I went through 10 coaches, and one of them was Saban.
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you just see all these different types of leadership and what doesn't work and what does well. And every time there's a new coach, this is going to be the year, and it ends up nothing.
Yeah. Well, I know you know Nick, who's the present chiropractor for. He always. Every time he sees me, goes, "You think there's a chance I'm going to get to a Super Bowl? You think I'm?" I said, "Hey, I'm hoping for you. You got a good head coach now. Hopefully, something will happen."
Right.
But he's dying. Everyone who works for a professional team, you want the ultimate prize for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
hey,
everyone works for the same thing, but it wasn't meant to be for certain people. Like look at poor Dan Marino, played his whole career and never got a Super Bowl ring. So. It's tough.
I was in a World Series with the Marlins. That was about it. But
okay, so
that's baseball.
Did they win? Did they win?
They won. I never saw anything like it. I got caught up in something. I was shocked, but it was not. It's nothing like if it was football. It was it's baseball. So the guys the athletic trainers at Miami Dolphins always kind of make jokes about the athletic trainers and their job descriptions, like, oh, did anybody break a nail today, or so,
Well, I was fortunate in one respect, was that my 38 years with the team, I only had 2 trainers.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So one of them was there for 25 years. The other one was there for 13 years.
Jim Whalen, is it? Yeah.
Whalen's been there a long time. But before that, it was Ron O'Neill. So it wasn't like we had the turnover.
That's great.
The head coach is one thing, but we had 3 ownerships too since I was there.
Oh my gosh!
Great.
Yeah.
So
wow. Anyway, aside from that, I mean, I guess we could wrap it up. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to throw out there, Mike, to any of the listeners? Like, what most of them might be new guys or guys that are already in the field. Anything in particular?
I'm just like, I always like to tell, young doctors and so forth, that you got to go for your dreams, and you have to realize you're making a sacrifice as a team doctor. It's not all fun and games. A lot of people think it's just going to be the glory of it, but there's a lot of work involved. So if you're willing to make that commitment, you're making a commitment to the team, to the players, to the coaches, to the staff. You have to be there for them. So you become a yes man a lot of times. And you have to realize that you're a team player. Like,
that's right.
A lot of times, I know you say it a lot, you have to leave your ego at the door. Because there are other people there that, it's like, hey, you're not the only one here that's helping them. Everyone contributes to the whole.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it's like I said to Mr. Kraft the year before I left, we were in one of the last games of the year, and he was the last to be treated. I said, I've been with this team for 37 years. I said, do you think I deserve a game ball or something after all this time? So he says, well, I've only owned the team for 24 years. So technically you've been with us 24 years. It's like, no, you've been with the Patriots for 24 years. I've been with them for 37. So he goes, well, it's a matter of semantics. It's like, it's not a matter of semantics. But he said to me, well, we only recognize team achievement, not individual achievement on the team. I said, well, I guess I wasted 37 years then. So you didn't waste 37 years. Everyone knows who you are. They know what you do. It's like, I know, but you would think, you're telling me I don't deserve a game ball after all this time? So he says, well, we don't treat people differently whether they've been with us for 1 season or 37 seasons.
Oh my God.
And that didn't sit well with me. But, you think of what you do with these teams. It's like you want at least acknowledgement for what you do.
Right.
True. Absolutely.
And with my team, I never got that game ball. I got a game ball for being a loyal fan for so many years. They sent it to every season ticket holder, but I never got the game ball. I'm still waiting for the last Super Bowl for the painted ball they give you, which somehow wasn't sent to any of the doctors on the team. They decided to cut costs.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But if you saw all of Mike's rings, that is a sight.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I bet it is.
Well, that's one thing I did acquire was I never got a full dozen, but I have 6 Super Bowl and 5 championship rings.
Yeah.
So I got my 11.
That's fantastic.
Go. So you have your son involved, following your footsteps.
Yes.
What's some pearls that we can leave? What's some pearls that you could tell the new doctor coming out, besides the fact of be a yes man and a passionate chiropractic? What's some, like a nice little pearl that you can leave for somebody that's new coming in?
We always tell someone who's, getting into the profession or whatever, it's like there's nothing like the satisfaction of helping someone who's either sick or hurting when you can see the results afterwards and how you affected them in their lives to improve the significance of what they do so that they feel better about themselves. So my son, he's from a different generation where they feel that if you have office hours, these are your office hours. There's office hours for a reason. And I'll always say to him, listen, you're in a service business here. If someone's in pain, I don't care what time it is, you try to do whatever you can to work them into your schedule. For example, tomorrow I'm through at noontime, but there's a new patient that was trying to get in. There was no space for him. I said to the girls, put him in after 12 when I'm finished, and I'll see him because these people, it was one of our state troopers, sergeants, but he does things for me. I can't say, well, I'm sorry, I have no opening. So the newer generation doesn't want to do any more than they have to because they say they work to live. They don't live to work.
Right.
So the philosophy between generations is different now. So a lot of these younger guys, when they go to teams, they don't stay long because they realize it's a lot of work. The money isn't the best in most situations. So they would rather do something else or have more fun, be with their friends on weekends. Why stay later in the night? Why add people to your schedule? So it's different philosophies, but I enjoy seeing the outcome of patient treatment, to see before and after, to see how you can have someone walk in your office in agony. Some of them are at their wits' end, and then a few days later when they come in, people will say, was that the same person that was here when I first came in? It's like, that's him. How? It's like, that's the miracles of chiropractic.
Yeah.
So,
and with that said, passion and commitment is probably the key. And it actually was quite funny that Wall Street Journal featured an article on how the mafia is having trouble with recruits because it's a different generation for the same reason. Right. They're texting things like, hey, Big Johnny, you knock somebody off. What do I do with that? And then you go, don't text that stuff, And so anyway, but passion and commitment. Yeah. That's what it's about.
See, I'm old school. In my office, when I come into the office, before I leave in the morning, I check my messages and emails. Right. I don't look at my phone until lunchtime. And then afterwards, it stays out of my hands until I'm finished at the end of the day. Where my son's generation, it's attached to them. So they won't miss one text message, right? No, one text message, nothing. So it's like if they send something to me during the day, it's like I texted you at 2:30 and waited until 6 to hear from you. It's like, that's right, because I'm not looking at my phone. It's called a distraction.
Right.
You need to realize that.
Yeah. That's right. That's so funny.
So there is a difference in the age groups, though.
True. Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've known you for so many years. This is the kind of thing that I really, really enjoy. And Terry and I are absolutely appreciative that you could spend this time.
It's my pleasure.
Really, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for taking the time,
And I hope
Mike.
to see you guys soon.
Yeah,
you
will
will.
be seeing me. Absolutely, buddy. Good
All
day.
right. Nice talking to you both. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. You can find announcements and more on our Instagram at the Crackin' Backs Podcast. Give us a follow and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Tune in every Monday and Wednesday for a new episode at 7 a.m. CST. See you next time.